Bergen-Fischer Media.
Is it possible to change things? Can I rise above the flood? Will the process cleanse my soul? Or is it always...
Hey guys, I want to welcome everybody back to the In the Blood podcast. Today in your world is Friday, April 11th. In our world, it is Tuesday, April 8th. Yeah, obviously we weren't here last week. I can't speak for Jason, but I had some stuff going on and I just wasn't feeling it.
I was just playing follow the leader.
Kind of crumpled under the pressure of trying to hold everything together, which sort of ties into what we wanted to chat about today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I think we talk a lot about the pressure that society puts on people, but we don't always name how different that pressure looks depending on people's gender.
Mm-hmm.
And while I think women quite often they're told that their value is tied up into how they look, us as guys, we're told that our worth is tied into how mentally strong, stable, and unemotional we can appear to be.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, yeah, I thought today maybe we could just explore um, these two different expectations, not to say that the one is harder than the other, but just to see how like each one shapes how we navigate life.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's definitely an unfair separation of mind and body. So what's
So
the
it was,
first aspect you want to chew on?
you beat me to the punch. I was literally just gonna ask you, why don't we start off with like maybe the double standard of the whole thing, right? Because I think that um, society definitely places different expectations on men versus women.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I mentioned right off the top, like women are sort of pressured to like achieve visual perfection,
Right.
while we're pressured to maintain like mental and emotional control, whatever the hell that means.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
I don't know. I think it kind of like that double standard, or like maybe like not double standard so much as just like a contrasting expectation. I've noticed like since I started paying attention over the last week how much this actually plays into my relationship with my partner,
mm-hmm.
right? Because like I'm wondering like why are you obsessing every time you've got a single hair out of place, and like you can't like go to the grocery store without fixing your mascara. But she doesn't understand like in conversation too like why I beat myself up so much if I have an emotion.
Mm-hmm. Right. Or why you don't worry about a hair out of place or
Well, me worrying about a hair out of place would be a neat trick.
on the face, on the face.
Oh, on the face. Okay.
But it is a hypocritical double standard because we both have emotions and we both have physicality.
Right.
So to place one expectation on one gender and the other expectation on the other gender is just absolutely ridiculous. Like it's the same thing as well, why would a woman ever be a welder? She could be in the kitchen. No, it's along the same lines of that fucking double standard.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? Because I mean, it's not like I don't like you sort of jokingly alluded to, right? It's not like I don't worry about my appearance. I mean, we're both in our 50s. I don't know about you, but I'm not quite as pretty as I used to be.
So yes,
And
yourself.
that does bother me sometimes, but I think to a certain degree, again, society kind of looks at the way men age, and it's like whereas we're aging like fine wine in society's eyes, women are aging like fine milk. Which isn't fair. I mean, because I mean, and obviously not everybody's got this pressure. I mean, personally, I like seeing some cracks appearing on a woman's face. I like the look of a woman versus a girl.
Mhm.
The aging process to me isn't ugly. So I mean, I'm not one of those jerks that's gonna like pressure my partner to look great. But I mean, conversely, we're kind of, I think, different sorts of guys in the sense where we don't tend to put pressure on other guys to hold it together. Quite the contrary, we're encouraging other people to kind of allow themselves to fall apart, even if we don't allow ourselves that same luxury all the time.
Or even just the simplicity of just being who you are. It's always been frustrating. Like I can appreciate a pretty 20-year-old, a pretty 40-year-old, a very pretty 70-year-old woman, and not necessarily because, oh, look, they took care of themselves and so on and so forth. Holy crap, like natural beauty. Because I'll tell you, in my opinion, I don't care how much freaking mascara you put on, I don't care how many pounds of cover up you put on, natural beauty through age, wisdom, or through young vitality, in my opinion, they're all the same.
Yeah.
One ages into the other, becoming a different type of perfection. So I've always had a hard time, again, with labels, but also with the idiocracy and expecting women to have this concrete chiseled beauty. Well, concrete is kind of a really bad word, but you know what I mean. That beauty and that expectation of perfection. The perfection comes from imperfection, and people really need to start seeing that.
Yeah, that's true. See, I think too, this idea of perfection. I mean, it's like normal people don't look like they've been airbrushed. They don't look like a Snapchat filter, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. That's why they have the Snapchat filters.
and I don't know. I kind of like seeing what somebody looked like. Like when my wife wakes up in the morning and she's got no makeup on and she's got like crazy bed hair. To me, to my eye, that's like the most beautiful she's gonna look all day.
Mm-hmm.
And then she
And
goes and messes it up by slapping a coat of paint on and like brushing all the curls out. But maybe that's a different topic altogether.
if you want to look something to look pretty because of paint, put it on your car. In my opinion, stop the judging BS. Love somebody for exactly who they are.
Yeah.
Take that judgment out of there. That judgment doesn't need to be there. There's a lot of pressures already from everything else that's going on. Why add the extra to yourself or somebody else?
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe I see I find myself kind of stuck in a weird spot here because I mean typically when we approach a topic, I mean you're looking at what are the society-wide solutions and I'm looking to okay, like what do we do on an individual level? But when we're addressing a topic that is completely intertwined with and if not substantially is all about societal expectations and society-wide issues. I don't really know how to individualize this because the little bits that you and I are already doing are kind of drops in the ocean in this whole conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Well,
I'm I'm trying to figure out how to like get myself into this broader scope and it's really uncomfortable territory for me.
Well, stay and for this conversation, try to stay in your narrow scope. Let's go just with the personal cost of these pressures. Let's internalize it, make it personal that way. Like suicide,
Hmm.
the undue pressures, the relenting pressures from society to tell somebody they have to be perfect on some people is such an anxiety causing rigmarole. It leads to all sorts of psychological problems. I'm not pretty enough. I'll never be enough. Oh, I might as well not even be here because I'm never going to be enough. Like these are real societal damages because of labels and expectations, unreasonable expectations that we're putting on people.
I just realized too while you're explaining this is that like I'm trying so hard to figure out like how do I personalize this? I realize I've already been personalizing it, and I caught myself in something that I said like a few minutes ago about how we're in the habit of encouraging guys to allow themselves to fall apart sometimes. But expressing emotion, feeling things, being something less than mentally perfect, that's not falling apart. That's just being a person.
Mhm.
Like that psychologically is the equivalent of taking the Snapchat filter away, right?
Yeah. No, there's personal costs to having to meet this. And I think one of the things that we should do as human beings, penis, vagina out of the question, as human beings, is take away the reason to ridicule somebody and inject a reason to prop somebody up.
Even if that somebody's ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Like right across the board. There are so many different things. There are so many controversial ideas of a woman, and though these days they say it doesn't exist as much, but there's still a lot of prejudice about women looking the part, whether she's a mechanic, whether she is a somebody who cleans hoofs off of cows, whatever the situation. Well, you gotta look pretty. You're a woman, you got boobs, you gotta look pretty. Well, and you know what, like, and then they say, oh man, you know, women look at men after a hard day and they get all rough and scrubbled and, oh, I love the look of a working man. Look at, you're dirty, you look so handsome. Okay, there are two catastrophic different opinions about what the exact same job should entail
Yeah.
because of societal bullshit.
What I realized too is that there may be a danger in the way we're approaching this so far, in like saying that like how much we as individuals appreciate like the natural beauty of, like, I'll just keep it limited to a woman because I think that's really what we're talking about primarily so far. I don't want that to come across like a woman who does decide to take a lot of pride and care in her appearance is the wrong move, or that wearing makeup is a bad thing.
Right.
If this is how you express yourself, this is how you actually feel comfortable. Like you're not like painting yourself for someone else. You're doing it because you appreciate the artistry of it. You like the way you look for you. Cool. More power to you.
Right.
And like, I'm not gonna lie, I can also appreciate the beauty in that presentation. I mean, beauty comes in many forms.
Right.
But what I don't want is for anybody to feel any pressure either to put the makeup on or to wash it off. Be beautiful on your own terms.
Mm-hmm. But that's a really good differentiation. We also have to realize that there are people out there, like you said, want to put on the makeup, want to go the whole 9 yards. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as that is a self-propelled ambition.
And I'll take it a step further. Whether you're a man or a woman, put the makeup on or off. Who cares?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I'm going to push that envelope with dressing, with attire as well. If I don't see any reason, if a Scottish man can wear a kilt, why can't a average man, Scottish or whatever ethnicity, wear a dress? I don't see. They should start making dresses, because I'll tell you something. I've never done it, but I can imagine it would feel really good to put on a dress on a warm summer day and have a little bit of wind blowing up there and cool it down a little bit.
It's exactly what I was thinking. Summer's coming, and oh, that gentle breeze would be so nice.
Yeah. Like these stereotypes that people put around attire, around makeup, in the whole kit and caboodle that we're talking about today, really has to go back into 1954. I personally have no shits to give about people who say, well, you shouldn't wear that, you shouldn't wear this, you shouldn't wear that, with the exception of, if you're going into some place that's like a business place, you don't want to wear a shirt that say, I like boobies. But
Have juicy on the back of your dress pants.
yeah, right. That with the exception of those kind of rules, I don't think there should be. If somebody's wearing a decent shirt and a nice pair of jeans that are not all ripped up and dirty and yada yada yada, and you walk into a workplace, that should be acceptable attire. Because that goes in the same thing as the painting your face. All you're doing is change what your legs look like by putting on a pair of dress pants. I'll tell you something. I've been in a few business meetings. Well, you and I have been in business meetings together over jobs that are going on and such. And I have been a much more laid back presenter of a idea in a job situation, like whether it's running a beam, finishing a beam when it's down or when it's up, when I'm comfortable and in a place where my head is good, rather than over worried about, okay, am I wearing the right pants to talk about this? Like, should I put on a different shirt? You know how distracting that would have been?
Mm.
Well, half of the people out there have to do it because of the societal pressures of dressing properly and looking the part.
Well, see, I think you hit the nail on the head with that whole looking the part thing. Because I mean, just maybe a silly example, but I was thinking of the one renovation company I worked for years ago, one of the two bosses, he never seemed to be able to line up any jobs. And it's like, it's the same company with the same price structure, with the same portfolio. Both of the guys had great personalities, the bosses, but one of them lined up all the work and the other one really struggled. And what it turned out to be was the one that was lining up all the work, he was showing up wearing jeans, measuring tape clipped to his belt, and driving a pickup truck. The other guy was showing up, business casual, sometimes a suit, driving a BMW sedan. He didn't look contractory enough. When this guy started showing up to potential clients driving a pickup truck, suddenly he's booking all these jobs. In this case, he was dressing down for success.
Mhm.
But I guess it's all about. I think like this is like a case of like a practical way in which society told somebody, look, you've got to look a certain way. The experience had taught him there are consequences to not looking a certain way. And it would be nice if we could dismantle some of these society-wide consequences. Because I mean, like the example I'm using, it's the same guy with the same stuff,
Yep.
but he's being treated so very differently. And like you see the same thing with men and women. It's like um my ex-wife, remember, she worked with us on quite a few jobs. I mean, she was easily the most talented renovator I've ever worked with, but she would show up on a job the first time and she'd be dealing with stupid comments like, oh, who hired the stripper?
Yep. I don't think there's anything wrong. Even if you run a renovation company, in my opinion, if somebody came in jeans and a shirt, okay, this guy's also got hands on. That's how I look at it. If somebody comes into a job site and he's got a suit on, holy crap, this guy's running a successful company.
Mm-hmm.
There's no differentiation. One happens to used to be in the field and is now dressing up to show that, my business is successful. So why does that, like you explained, that differentiation between blue jeans and suit slacks? It makes no sense. There should be no pressure to be something that you're not. I remember who you're talking about, and he was very knowledgeable. I won't say as knowledgeable as the other person, but he was very knowledgeable, and he can go in and talk business with pretty much anybody. But he was judged because of what he wore. That's as bad as a woman wanting to wear a flimsy top and flimsy bottoms, and everybody catcalling at her because they're too ignorant to just appreciate that that's how she chooses to be comfortable.
Yeah, you can't work in a bank, you've got a D cup.
Yeah, like holy crap! My
God,
truck's
I
not a
just
D cup.
realized,
Am
I
I
hope
going to not
nobody
get
quote
that?
mines me for that.
Say that again. Say that again.
I said I really hope nobody quote mines me on that one comment.
I actually kind of hope they do. But anyway,
Okay, so like I'll pressure back on you. Where do you want to go next with this?
I want to explore who has um, the deeper expectation. Like, is there more expectation on women to pretty up and wear makeup? Or is there more expectation on men to be strong, silent type?
Okay, so my take on that point might be a little different than what your take might be based on how you're phrasing the question.
Okay.
I think it's possible that society is applying equal pressure on both men and women, just to keep this dichotomy going, where it's like women have to be pretty and the men have to be strong. Where I see the difference is is in the idea that if a woman's expected to be beautiful, youthful, colorful, whatever, she can go get herself a paint and spackle kit from the cosmetic store. She
Mhm.
can fill in the cracks. She can eliminate the dark rings. She can colorize the lips. She can tease her hair. She can do all this stuff. But as guys, if we're emotionally fucked, where's the toolkit for that? I mean, some might argue at the liquor store,
Yeah.
right? But and like and I'm only half joking because for how many years that was my coping mechanism was drinking.
Hmm. Yep.
I can't say a healthy or functional coping mechanism, but that's what I had. I didn't
Still
know what
fun.
the hell else to do.
Yep. Still a functional mechanism.
And yeah, I mean, whereas there's plenty of long-term stuff that's technically available, if you need a quick fix, what is there? And for almost all the guys I know and have ever known, the quick fix is when somebody asks you what's going on, how are they doing? The answer is just to say, fine.
Yeah. Or don't
Push
worry, I
everything
got
deep
this.
down inside and pretend it's okay.
Yep. Don't worry, I got this.
Hmm.
Yep. It's. I guess it also depends on where the expectation is. Like, I think the expectation in the workplace is more on women than it is men, because men just go in and do their job. That's what they're used to doing. But women, even if you're a welder, like I said earlier, you still got to be pretty. You still got to dress up. I think the pressures societally are harder still on women. Like in the 50s, okay, 100% more hard for the women. But now I still believe it's more hard on the women, because if a guy goes in, he is so generationally conditioned to be the strong one. A lot of time it doesn't take any thought, we just do it. So though it's also generational for women, men still harp on women to be that.
That's
And
actually an interesting
for that
take.
matter, women still harp on women to be that. So they're getting it from both. Men are getting it mainly from other men. These days, I think women more so say, honey, it's okay, talk to me. Whereas guys are, come on, man, buddy up.
Now that I think about it, like I think the attempt to support men is there. On the surface, I mean there probably is a lot more support than we really talk about most of the time. Because I mean, in all honesty, I mean most of most of the women I've been with, it's like if I'm having an off day, there's that invitation to talk to her. My friends, my buddies will say, "Hey, if you got something going on, let me know. I can help." Now, where the problem for me comes in is not that nobody's offering the help, is that when a female partner asks me to talk to her and then I do, she doesn't get it because she's not been trained to get it. There's no societal reference to help her get it. It's not like she's being shitty. Just why would she get it? You're confusing me by having emotions as a man. You're supposed to be strong. And then that's where, like, I think that almost like defensiveness comes up, and it's just like, okay, society says men are supposed to be a certain way. You're not being that way. I'm going to help you get back on track by just like saying, hey, man up.
Mhm.
And it's a well intentioned man up, but it's a very damaging one.
Yeah.
And it just
But
like, and I think The reverse is probably true too, because I mean, think about like if my wife's having not my current partner, but I think about like my ex-wife. I was really, really bad for this. If she'd be having a bad day, I'd flip her like a couple $100 and say, well, go to the salon, make yourself feel good, right? Equating looking good with feeling good, not realizing that maybe she wasn't feeling good because she just had a 40th birthday and was feeling kind of ugly and old.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. It never occurred to me to stop and ask. I thought I knew the answer to the problem.
All right. No, I've found, again, different experiences because we do different things. I do a lot of self-help searching on TikTok, see what people are thinking and along those lines. And I have found more women on various channels, whether it's Facebook Shorts, YouTube Reels, or TikTok, the short ones, that a lot of women are saying, um, damn you, ex wife, for putting him in a position where he felt like he had to be something he wasn't.
Hmm.
Damn you, society, for putting that man, like a lot of support for men, a lot of support for men from women. In the same arena, when it's a man doing it, it is still you don't understand. You're a man. You got to put your emotions away. You got to make sure that you're the strong one for your woman so that when she's doing this, you got to be there and blah, blah, blah bullshit. So, because of, I thought I had a reason, but the reality is it blew out of my head. I don't understand why men are still stuck in that BS, and a lot of women, from what I'm seeing, anyways, are on the bandwagon to men being emotional and being open and cry on my shoulder. It's okay. They also answer messages when a man says, "Thank you very much for being there. I'm having this problem, and your video made me allowed myself to deal with this." And message and replies to those things like, "Message me, I'll help you," from the creator. That's a huge, in my opinion, switch from the norm.
Yeah, I'm kind of finding myself hung up a little bit in the why of this whole thing, and I can't speak to traditionally where all this stuff came from and how we got on this track where the women were supposed to, present well cosmetically and we were supposed to be quiet and strong and stone-like. But I can see a lot about like why this is perpetuated, and I think a lot of that comes from if I look at the relationship dynamic with myself and my last couple of partners, the pressure that they've put on me to sort of be strong, and I'll say like quote unquote for the people who are listening, not watching,
Right.
um, has come from a place of they're used to dealing with men who are explosive, who are abusive, who when they get emotionally dysregulated, they throw hands, they hurl insults, they just act generally dangerous and
Right.
downright crappy, right?
Yep.
Um, a woman like that, if she tells you like, or if she pressures you to keep your emotions in check, that may be coming and quite often I think is coming from a place of fear and self-preservation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
On the flip side, I mean, as guys, I mean, not so much at this stage of life for us, but I mean, when we were younger, certainly there was a lot of crap talking that went on. And it's like, and if you have a new girlfriend, say, and your buddies want to see a picture, and it's like you're like trying to figure out like what's the best picture I can show because the last thing I want is for my buddies to think that my girl is ugly, right? So if you're gonna bring her out to a social event to meet the guys for the first time, there's a lot of the underlying, maybe you don't say it, maybe you're thinking like, ah, crap, you're not gonna wear that, are you? You're gonna do something to your hair, and it's like you start making all these like subtle little jabs, hints, suggestions, whatever, like all these different ways where she can pretty herself up.
Mhm.
You get frustrated when she doesn't look like a freaking supermodel every time you go to the grocery store because of this insecure, shitty shame factor, which, the more I dig into the whys, the more it all comes down to like the insecure male mindset seems to be driving all of this.
Mhm.
But
That's
then,
actually exactly where I was going to go. Sorry for cutting you off.
no, I just realized when you cut me off that maybe I was monologuing, so give you a chance to talk.
So as both being insecure younger males, I 100% agree with what you're saying because there was a day in the past when a day, I act like it was one day. There was back in the day when I was insecure and close minded and wanted my girl to be the prettiest girl at the ball kind of bullshit. And I feel bad. Genuinely, inside, I feel bad about who I was. Putting those pressures on my partner. Like, honey, you really just going to go out in a t shirt with no bra on? You know? And I have said that. The shitty me had said that in the past. Like, I'm really glad we're doing this topic because I never thought about this kind of shit before.
Hmm.
And how much I've changed. Now I don't give a shit.
Yeah, let him swing.
When my partner and I go out, if my partner says, "Is this okay?" I say, "Are you comfortable?
Hmm.
Is it what you want to wear? Because you wear what the fuck you want to wear, and I will back your play, 100%.
Fair enough.
You be who you want to be because I love you regardless. And if somebody else doesn't, you want to tell them off because of that, then go ahead. If you don't, if you want me to do it, fucking it, I'm all there." But I used to be such a shitty person. Holy crap. Like, well, not necessarily a shitty person, but definitely shitty at my ideals.
No, I don't think you were trying to be, right? I mean, it's like I hate using conditioning as an excuse, but to some extent it is.
I agree with you, but I'm not going to let myself sit on that excuse.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not going to use. I'm going to use maybe not an excuse, maybe an explanation would be like leaning more towards accurate, right? Because I mean, it's like we were taught stupid things, so I mean, it's not a surprise that it took us a while to move past these stupid things we were taught.
Yep.
Like I remember when you got together with one person, and the first like, and I asked you like, well, tell me about her, and the first thing you said, well, she's not a real looker, but she's super nice. Like, why would you have felt pressure to lead with that? I mean, there's when I ended up meeting this person, it's like I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm not seeing, like, she's not ugly. She's not like a mutant. She's a perfectly normal looking human being with a great personality.
Mhm.
And it's like, again, when I think about how like your tastes, and not to objectify anybody, but I mean your visual idea of beauty and mine are different,
Mhm.
and ours are probably different from everybody else we're going to meet. And with so many different individual ideas of beauty, I mean, how do we end up with this standardized pressure to be beautiful? You can't be to everybody, but you're always going to be to somebody.
Yep. Yep. And I think I know who you're talking about. But again, it was excusing my insecurity. I didn't. Okay. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take this moment to, I doubt it, but if one of my exes ever watched this, I have grown and I apologize. I genuinely apologize for being a piece of shit because I
Mhm.
really was. There's exes out there that I was with that have had expectations of me and didn't stay with me because of my financial situation or didn't stay with me because of my whatever. That doesn't excuse my actions.
Fair.
So the apology that I'm throwing out there is genuine to every single person that has been involved with me. If I've ever made that comment to you, and I know pretty much 90% of you I have, I truly apologize. I own my shit. And I hope I didn't damage too much and you were able to come back from that, because, yeah, that was really shitty. Sorry, I just had to put that out there.
No, and again, if any of them are listening, I'm sure they appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
So, just taking us back a step, I just realized that, when I was explaining how there's a lot of different ideas of like what physical beauty looks like, and I won't limit that from a man's perspective. It's like from anybody's perspective, beautiful takes many forms, right? This pressure that we feel as men to be mentally perfect, does the concept of mentally perfect have as much variety as this concept of being physically perfect?
I think it is has as much variety as it does individuality.
That's what I was like sort of stuck on, because I mean, if it's a case of like no matter how you are wired mentally or how you present mentally, there's somebody who's going to appreciate it, well then cool. That takes a lot of the pressure off. But if what passes for, again, I have to say quote unquote for the audio listeners, what passes for mentally healthy is more universal, well then that would make the pressure of being healthy much greater.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it's also, I think that's, I'm going to use my word, proponed to the individual looking. Like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I 100% agree with that. Because the expectation of, pardon me for saying it, but our quotes, women is 100% set by the individual. Though it is a societal problem, each individual looks at what that beauty is differently and will put expectations on different girlfriends or future girlfriends, however you want to look at it, due to their attributes in their eyes.
I just thought of maybe like a silly example, but like what you're explaining, would that be the kind of thing whereas um maybe in general terms in society, a sadist is perceived as like not desirable, but to a masochist, a sadist is essential.
Well, absolutely. That's one complicated view. But there's also just a you may like redheads with straight hair. I like redheads with curly hair.
Fair.
You know, it is that A to Z.
A to Z for the Canadian viewers.
Yeah, see, there's a freaking judgment again.
Okay, well, I think I feel like there's a lot of nuance and variety to this conversation. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to tie every loose end into a neat little bow.
Mhm.
Is there anything outstanding for you right now that you don't want to miss out on unpacking?
Um, I want to touch on one thing. How this is still in 2025 a controversial idea.
Hmm.
Like, just as an example, it's as controversial an idea as racism. There are still people who are so dead set on putting those expectations out there. Hey, babe, we're going out to a really nice place for dinner. Put on your best dress. Make sure you put on that 18 fucking pounds of makeup. Stop doing it. Hey, we're going to a play. Husband, I need you to be that strong man so when I cry, I can be on your shoulder. Stop doing it. Because I've grown, my opinion is different. I think the controversial label should be taken out. Stop putting these expectations. I don't know why I'm going in this tangent, but bear with me just for a quick second. We really, as a society, have to stop putting these expectations on people. And I'm going to say this, like, I 100% agree, offense is taken, not given. But by deliberately being a piece of shit and putting those expectations on somebody, you are causing an effect. You are causing insecurity. You are causing suicidal idealization.
Ideation.
Thank you. You are putting the anxiety into people by putting those expectations on somebody else. All I can say is just frickin' stop. I've been hurt by it tons. I was judged for years because of where I came from. And I know you were. And because of it, we learned to stop that judgment. But unfortunately, I'll say 95% of the society hasn't. I appreciate the women that are sticking up for men's emotional openness. I appreciate the men who are sticking up for the female's personal opinion of beauty to shine. But the other 95%, I say shove it up your ass. Because you've got to stop putting people in a nice little box you think they fit in.
Yeah, I guess my concise response to that would be like, people come with stuff. They come with flaws and features. People are not decorations. We can't expect them to be perfect.
Yeah. 100%. I think if we dig too much and expect people to be outrageously beautiful, or and then you know what, like really even like actors and actresses, I much more jive with somebody like Jack Black, who doesn't put on the makeup and walk around society when he's on his off hours like a Ken doll, than I do somebody like Beyonce, who at 3 o'clock in the morning is getting up just to go grocery shopping and put on her makeup. That's characterizations on two famous people. That's my assumption. So if that assumption is wrong, I apologize, but it's the only two examples I can think of.
All right. What I think I'd like to sort of close with, and of course you're free to offer your own closing thoughts when I'm done, is two things. One is I think we should think about the way we approach each other. You know, like when, and I'm going to personalize this now because I know what I'm guilty of. You know, if my partner comes to me and she's emotionally dysregulated, there's this habit I'm in where it's not like I'm telling her she can't express herself, but underneath my invitation to express is a silent hope that she'll regulate herself sooner rather than later, because I don't want to deal with the mess. Because nobody wants to deal with my mess. And there's that fair is fair mentality that subconsciously kicks in. I just think, look, if I got to be together, why the fuck am I listening to this shit? But at the same time, it's like it's not like she nitpicks my appearance, but I mean, if like you, you said something about a hair out of place and, specifically mention like the beard. I mean, like this is something that like now that like for the first time in my life, I'm growing a bit of facial hair. Every once in a while, there's a little tuft that sticks up, and she'll just subconsciously reach out and smooth it down. And it was kind of fun for the first couple days. I find myself getting irritated by it now. It's like, well, the hair sticks up. Why can't you just leave it alone? But she's doing what society has taught her that she needs to do. She probably is also struggling to understand, like, why is it that she has to have everything in place, but I'm allowed to let it fly wild. So that's one prong of my closing statement. The other prong is kind of unrelated-ish. It's tying into something that you'd mentioned when you were talking about how, like, for years you said offense is taken, not given. But and it's not like I want to like entirely turn this an opportunity to pitch my other podcast, but I mean, on the most recent episode of Call Me Tony, I specifically addressed a long-standing belief I've had and talked about how recent events have caused me to start rethinking that idea that we all have more in common than we have in conflict. I'm realizing more and more that I don't really care if that's the case. Just like it's possible that that we can give an offense in certain situations. I'm open to challenge the way I've been doing things just as much as I'm open to challenge the way things have always been done. This is something that you and I have always done, is challenge the way things are and encourage a better way of doing things. Everything we've spoken about today has been all about that, trying to challenge the established norm, which is shitty, and try to encourage something that feels better for all of us.
Right.
Anyways, that's my piece. I'm going to shut up now.
Okay. So I still very firmly believe that offense is taken, not given. And it is our stinking thinking that puts that undue pressure on people. And without realizing it, though, we are deliberately being pieces of shit by putting people in these boxes. You have to be beautiful. You have to be strong. You have. The truth is, you don't have to be anything. If you're going to be one of those people who think your woman has to be beautiful and has to wear the perfect dress and has to have the perfect hair and has to have the perfect makeup because you're buying a freaking grocery cart of groceries, that's not giving or taking offense. That's being a piece of shit and putting somebody in a box they don't deserve to be in. So that's not taking offense because you're deliberately being a piece of crap. Therefore, I've always said offense is taken, not given, as long as you're not being a piece of shit and deliberately trying to put somebody there. And in these circumstances, you're deliberately trying to put somebody there.
Fair.
So get out of your own head and look at yourself. Do I do this? Ask yourself. Be honest with yourself. I don't care if you got to go to your room and be honest with yourself because you're too embarrassed or too insecure to do it in front of somebody. Go to your room and say, do I do this? Sit on the couch in silence, pretending you're playing a game and say, do I do this? And be honest with yourself, because you will make your world a lot better if you are. You will make your relationship a lot better because you are. Let your partner be who they are, and I'll guarantee it'll clear up 60% of the bullshit that goes on in your relationship. That's my two Canadian pennies, or two American pennies, because we don't have pennies in Canada anymore.
Okay, well, as always, God, why am I stumbling on simple words? As always, my friends, if you've got thoughts on this or anything else we've spoken about, either on this podcast or any other, feel free to send us an email in thebloodpod@gmail.com. And
let us know what you think of Tony's beer.
Yeah. Please like it. And until next time, one love.